Okay, now we're gonna do the front captive rotors on this thing. So you probably all know that it's not easy to do that. So I didn't lift up the car yet because I have to loosen this axle nut. Okay, it's 36 millimeters. First I have to as you can see, it's the part of this nut is jammed in there. So it's not jammed, but that's what you do so the nut doesn't spin back. And have to get a screwdriver and just pry on it back. You can use a hammer to hit on the screwdriver. Axle nut is loose. Now you can jack up the car. The wheel is off, and before I remove the caliper, I have to put the screwdriver in here and loosen these four bolts, and then yeah, and then we'll be able to remove this thing. And as you can see, the condition of these rotors is just not perfect. It's I don't know, they've been replaced a very long time ago. Okay, so it's 14 millimeters. I have a screwdriver in here to hold the rotor in place, and I'm gonna buzz these loose. Bolts are loose, so now we can take off this caliper. Again, same thing, 2 bolts. They're loosened already. One. And then the one on the bottom. And then we'll have to compress the caliper. Okay, now it's time to compress the caliper. Alright, I'm using this tool and all the brake pad. The caliper is sitting right there in the boxes. So, as you can see, I don't know, this rotor is very thin. So, it was about to probably crack already. You can see this coloration also. Alright. 17 millimeter socket. And remove the bracket. Alright, the bracket is out of the way. So, as you can see, you cannot do anything with these rotors. This is an older style. They're called captive rotors. So, you're gonna have to remove the nut on the ball joint and the cotter pin and separate that. And also, you are going to need to disconnect the axle. Actually, you don't have to touch the upper control arm, or you don't have to touch the tie rod. Okay, so yeah, so let's start. Since this axle, it's actually moving in, so that's good. It's not seized on the splines. Now I just have to move on to the ball joint over there. Alright, so now I'm trying to get rid of this cotter pin. It's in there. Okay, let me try showing you. So, using a screwdriver to remove that cotter pin. Okay, so most of the time these break. Is this one right now, as you can see. So we'll probably just break off the rest of it and then remove that castle nut. Now I'm removing the ball joint nut. Alright, so I just turned the steering wheel. Now I have to hammer on this part right here on the steering knuckle to loosen the ball joint. Okay. To loosen the nut, and then I'm gonna use a pickle fork to separate the knuckle and the ball joint on the control arm. Separate it. Alright, so actually disconnected the tie rod, disconnected the control arm, and ball joint. It's just I was pounding on it. It's just doesn't want to move. I don't want to apply heat because there's rubber everywhere. And here, so you have some access now to these 4 bolts. 1, 2, 3, and then there's 4 over there. So you have to remove them. Okay, so it's 12 millimeters, 4 bolts. Start removing them. Alright, so all 4 bolts are out. And now instead of that, putting these longer bolts with the same thread in there. Alright. 1. And then the second one right there. Okay, so yeah, I was struggling a little bit, but I was hitting the hammer, this and that. I was using the star pattern for that. And as you can see, my bearing started to move, which is good. And then soon it's gonna come out this way, and I'll be able to change my rotor. As you can see, I also had to pop the axle from that the trans side because my ball joint was like really seized, doesn't want to come off. Okay, so now I'm just gonna keep hitting 1, 1, 1, 1, just like so, and then yeah, I'll remove the bearing out of there. So after hammering, of course my ball joint is a little bit out of the original position, but I will be able to just hammer it back on. But as you can see, there's my bearing right there and all that rust. Now I can take off these bolts, the long ones, and I'll have my captive rotor and bearing assembly. Here's my last bolt sticking out, and this is my rotor and bearing assembly. Now I'm gonna clean this area right here where the bearing was riding on. We use sandpaper and just the cloth, like so. Do the same on the bearing side. And then just clean it even more with sandpaper. At the same time, since the owner didn't give me a new bearing, I'm just gonna pop this cover off. This cover off. I'm gonna put more grease in there. Alright. Now I'm gonna remove these bolts that I loosened it when I just first started this job. Take them out completely. Okay, so I'm removing the last bolt, and my rotor is separating from the bearing. Alright. So I have to turn it upside down. So it's upside down. Now I'm gonna remove this thing. So I have to line them up right here. As you can see, line up those spots, and then you can just take it out. Have to use some hammer too, because okay, there's my, I don't know, 20 years old rotor, whatever. Put it aside. This is my bearing assembly. Okay. Alright, so now I'm gonna get ready to put the new rotor on, and I'll show you real quick how it's done. So, new rotor's on. Now there's gonna be holes right there. You have to align them all. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then from the back side, you're gonna put these bolts on. So put all of them on and tighten them. They're snug. I didn't tighten them all the way yet. I'll do it once everything is on the car. Anti-seize all the way around here where the bearing is gonna go. Alright. You just have to simply align that bearing right there to this knuckle right here, and then just gonna put these stock bolts in and just tighten them crisscross pattern. I lined up the bearing and the knuckle and started to put 2 bolts in there. Alright, and then put 2 more and then just tighten them. Tightening this thing, the bolts are gonna draw the bearing in, so you don't have to like press it back or anything like that. So this is all done. As you can see, bearing is like flush. So now we can start putting the stuff back together. This axle back, and then tie rod and the upper control arm. So yeah. Okay, so now everything is basically back together almost. I have to work with my bracket, and I'm gonna start putting new brake pads on. I already greased the pins on this thing. Start putting these ones on. Okay. The bracket is on the car now. You can start putting the pads on. I'm gonna put lubricant right here on the contacts, and yeah, well, we're almost done. Okay, pads are in place. Now we can put the caliper back on. Alright, so this side is ready to go. Everything is tightened. The tie rod, the upper control arm, and the axle nut, the caliper, all the retainers and everything. They're all ready to go. Alright, so that's how you replace the front brakes on this Honda. And yeah, not so fun, but what do you gotta do? You gotta change them.